the aftermath, when black women started to ride for me and start to get attacked themselves, and I didn't see that because that early I was already out.
Right.
And I was out for almost a week after. So everything I saw happening on Twitter was secondhand through my partner, Dr. Siri Alang. And she was the one kind of reporting to me what was going on. And, you know, and of course, at this time, I had already had calls from, you know, my administrators and things like that, saying that there would be a response. They didn't tell me what the response would be, but definitely this has come to the point that they've seen it and they're going to have to respond to it. And I said, and I also at that point explained to them my perspective, where I came from, and what the British monarch had done, and what she represented, and what I was, the truth I was telling, and how I was speaking from not just my pain, but the collective pain of my family and
Absolutely.
my broader Igbo people. So, you know, I told that to them, and then they said okay, and that was it. Whatever else I heard from them was when I was hearing it on the news along with everybody else, or when I saw the statement being released, etc.
Absolutely. And so I had two more questions, and I want to open it up. Has this experience changed the way, because like you said, you kind of go in, you use Twitter, you kind of almost like prepare, you know, like you said, to teach when you go in there. Has this experience changed the way you're looking at engaging in social media, or do you intend to continue to engage in the way you have?
So even in this, my most intense moment on social media, fundamentally, more than I am anything else in this world, more than I am a mother, more than I am a researcher, more than I am a sister, a community member, I am a teacher. And if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to teach.
Right.
And even in that very intense moment of profound pain and my outburst, my emotional outburst of deep, deep pain, I was teaching. I followed up explaining that there was a genocide against the Biafra people.
Right.
The who were trying, you know, the Igbo people who were trying to form an independent nation of Biafra. They wanted to be separate from the country that the British Empire had imposed on us, which was this country of Nigeria, where they kind of took a bunch of independent nations who don't have anything to do with each other, don't even speak each other's language, don't relate. Many of them were even enemies and warring at the time, smushed them all together and drew these arbitrary lines around them and called them countries and named those countries.
Right.
And then said, now y'all get along and do a country for us and be a union for us. And then go through, you know, contentious, bloody independence processes that never really yield any real independence. You're still part of a commonwealth afterwards.
True.
And you have the eternal meddling in your affairs and the eternal extraction of your resources and the eternal fomenting of divisiveness and infighting in order to be able to control you. This is what an oppressor does, a colonizer does. These are, you know, tactics and strategies of dominance.
Right.
We were subjected to that as a larger unit of Nigeria. And then when the Igbo people said, we want our own thing, let's go and do that. Well, it so happened to be that the territory that this new country of Biafra was going to be in included very, very rich oil reserves. And the British were not going to let go of that.
Wow.
And the people that they had put in power, you know, that their puppet Nigerian governments weren't going to do that either, because they needed it for the Nigerian project.
Right.
And Britain needed it for its own interests and uses. So Great Britain got directly involved in this civil war and in the war for independence, and decided that they would do everything to make sure that Biafra did not go.
Wow.
And this everything meant directly funding genocide of the people of Biafra. This is what happened. This is the historical record. I'm not saying anything that's in doubt or in question, right?
Yeah.
Even when it was happening during this period of 1967 to 1970, the BBC themselves were producing documentaries decrying it, covering all the protests that were happening in Great Britain.
This is recent.
Yeah, this is very recent. My sister, for example, is turning 60 this month. And my sister was alive at that time. She was like 5, 6.
Right.
My other brother was alive at the time, and my second brother was in my mother's belly. She was pregnant during this time, running from village to village to escape the bombs that they were throwing at villagers. So when we tell you that 3 million people, some people have said up to 5 million, 6 million, or some people quote low. So the sort of average agreed upon number that you really cannot contest is about 3 million. When you think of a Holocaust,
Right.
this is a Holocaust.
Absolutely.
Now, the Holocaust that we're most familiar with is the most famous one against the Jewish people,
Yes.
where 6 million of them were massacred.
Absolutely.
So at the most sort of conservative estimation, they did half of us, half that number. Civilians, these are non-combatants, and more than 1 million children alone starved.
Wow.
The British paid for that. And Queen Elizabeth II was ruler. She was monarch at that time. This was the government that she was supervising. Now, I don't buy this notion that she was just a statue, if you will.
I was going to ask you that question.
Or
reading my mind.
a decorative plant.
Right.
Or, some kind of, I don't know, tchotchke sitting on the shelf.
Right.
This was a ruler. This was someone, the very crown that she had on her head, signifying the fact that she's a monarch, was made from plunder.
Right.
Diamonds, blood diamonds.
Absolutely.
So the throne that she's sitting on is a throne of blood. So you cannot say that she was just this little old lady or this figurehead that really had nothing to do with anything, and it was just the British government that were making their deals and, governing however they would, without relating it directly to her, because she directly benefited her very position as a monarch, the palace that she lived in, the opulence, the obscene levels of wealth that she enjoyed.
Absolutely.
Were all paid for by our blood. And I don't say this figuratively. Right. And I don't say this as something that, this long remote past, let's say, of human enslavement, which on my mother's side, she's from Trinidad, my ancestors over there were enslaved by the British. I'm talking about recent living memory of people still alive today. Her money, her government funded our slaughter. And people expected me to be calm or to be, I don't know what they expected.
Right.
When the person who literally paid money for bombs and guns and military supplies to come and massacre your people is dying. Right. You're not supposed to dance. What's the reaction to that?
I remember when we found out that Osama bin Laden was killed, and Americans celebrated, right? Because they held him responsible for 9/11, which just passed, and that terror that occurred, and those 3,000 or so people that died.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when it's our terror, when it's our pain, when it's our loss as black and brown people, and we, particularly when we express it in a way that challenges, white supremacy, the white supremacy dominant narrative, and this, kind of almost like Disneying idea that people had of a queen, then all of a sudden it's like we're always told to be civil, to be calm, to be peaceful as black and brown people. And so, but when it's somebody that you feel harmed America, you can dance, you can celebrate, you can take out your flags, and that's held up. You can have lynchings were celebratory things in the history of the United States of America, where they would have a parade and party and
take children.
Right.
An entire family would go and enjoy the spectacle
100%.
of murdering black people.
100%. 100%. So, my last question is, a support petition has been produced.
Yeah.
4,000 or 5,000 people have signed this petition. So when you see that support, just how do you feel in that moment?
It felt so good, right? Especially since I was locked out of Twitter,
Right.
Battling this suspension, and having my account, temporarily, suspended. And just seeing the outpouring of support from people who may or may not have agreed with how I expressed my pain, but certainly believed that I had a right to do it.
Absolutely.
In however I did it. And that was so important to me. And it was wonderful to see that, because not only that letter with, 4,000, 5,000 signatures, was
like fellow academics, journalists, students.
Exactly. People in this country, in the United States, and around the world. And it wasn't just academics, it was professionals, it was
Right.
community members, students, all sorts of people were there saying, we got your back.
Absolutely.
Now, once again, they were not endorsing what I did or the words that I used, but they were endorsing my right to speak my truth and to speak my pain and not be terrorized and abused and violently targeted for it when Jeff Bezos put that target on my back.
Absolutely.
And then, in addition to that letter, there was also a letter from my colleagues at my university, other faculty, staff, other employees, with more than 100 names on that letter as well. And then another letter from students.
Wow.
At Carnegie Mellon, who filled, last time I looked, like 8 pages of signatures, and not even on a list form, in like block text,
Wow.
one after the other, thick.
Beautiful.
And even on campus, they spray painted on sort of the main quad. There are these, there's this wall, this white wall, where they spray painted "R.I.P. Colonialism" on one side, and on the other side, "Let her speak." These were Carnegie Mellon students who did that. So when I saw all of that, the outpouring of support from the broader academic community and in general, people outside of my institution, along with my colleagues at my institution and the students that I serve at this institution, I cannot, and I'm, a words person. Words are my business. I'm a linguist. I cannot even find the words to tell you just how thankful and grateful and joyful I felt in such days of pain, right? Because I'm a human being. I act tough, right? But you can only take so much abuse.
True.
So in all of that pain, to get this kind of support, I realize I have people.
Absolutely.
I have people.
Absolutely. That includes us at One Hood.
Yes,
Well,
indeed.
you got us too. Beautiful, beautiful.